Hello and welcome to American Football Bets. I'm your host Lewis, and today I'll be going over my tips for game week 16 of the NFL regular season. As always, please gamble responsibly. Link is in the description below. Please like and subscribe. It takes just 2 seconds of your time, 2 clicks of a button, and really makes a huge difference to the channel. But without further ado, let's get into it. So just a very quick overview from my tips from game week 15 last week. We went 1 and 2. 1 win, 2 losses. Our win came with the over for Marcus Mariota rushing yards, having rushed for a total of 43 yards in that game. We were just short on the over for Lamar Jackson's rushing yards, where he rushed for 26 yards and his over underline was 33 yards. And we were just one leg short of our threefold handicap acca, with both the Bills and Ravens both covering the spread, but the Panthers coming up short against the Saints, who had a late fourth quarter win, which lost us that bet. But now with last week's bets covered, let's look at the bets for this coming week in more detail. As always, just a quick reminder and explanation for anyone new to the channel of how I've made my choices for the week's betting this week. When making these selections, I take into account the current roster and the season's performances so far. And unlike the start of the season, we now have almost a complete set of data for this season's games going into game week 16, and a good feel definitely for where each team sits with their strengths and weaknesses, and we also know the standout players to target each week. We also know this week the teams which have something to play for and those who are guaranteed to not reach the playoffs. Each week I look at the team's strengths and weaknesses, whether that be in the passing game or the running game, and I narrow down the fixtures I'm interested in betting on by looking at the teams playing each other that have opposing strengths and weaknesses. So for example, are there any teams that are particularly good at gaining rushing yards, playing any teams that allow a lot of rushing yards? Now that's all explained, let's look at this week's betting angles in more detail. So I've broken up this week's bets into my NAP and a couple of next best bets, and my NAP for game week 16 is going to target the matchup between the San Francisco 49ers and the Indianapolis Colts. And the Colts are currently the second worst team in the league at defending the passing game, allowing on average 247.6 yards of passing offense per game, which has been even worse in the most recent games, in fact. Conversely, the 49ers are fourth in the NFL overall for the most passing yards on average per game, gaining an average of 246.1 passing yards per game. And George Kittle is an absolute star for the Niners, and his over-underline this week seems quite low to me at 63.5 receiving yards. He's been above that number for receiving yards in his last 5 games, and considering he's only played 7 full games this season since coming back from injury, he's been on the over, the line that is being given this week, in that sense, all season long, other than the 2 games where he returned from injury. So for those reasons, my nap of the week is George Kittle to have more than 63.5 receiving yards against the Colts at odds around evens. And then my next best bets for the week turn to the matchup between the Lions and the Steelers. And this is a huge game for both teams with playoff implications. If the Steelers win, their chance of going to the playoffs will go to 80%, but it will go down to 53% with a loss. And for the Lions, their playoff chances go up to 47% with a win, but right down to a really small 16% with a loss. So really a huge game for both teams. And they're both going to be playing for their playoff lives in that sense. Having considered that the Steelers are ranked pretty poor, in fact, 27th in the league, allowing the most passing yards per game, and Detroit are ranked 3rd of all NFL teams for the most passing yards per game, this is going to be a huge game, I think, for Jared Goff and his offense. And the 2 bets that I like on the Lions' offensive side of the ball, particularly, the lines are for Jared Goff's passing over and Jameson Williams on the receiving end. And I'm on the over for both of those, where we require Jared Goff to have over 264 passing yards and Jameson Williams to have over 67 receiving yards. Both are odds around evens, or combined odds around 4-1 if you want the double. Goff has had only less than 264 passing yards in 2 of his last 7 games, and those are against the Eagles and divisional rivals Green Bay. Williams' line of 67 receiving yards also seems pretty low, considering he's had 144, 96 and 134 receiving yards in his last 3 games. So for those reasons, I want Jared Goff to have over 264 passing yards and Jameson Williams to have over 67 receiving yards, both against the Steelers this week. That's it for today's picks. Thanks very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe. It takes just a moment of your time and helps this channel a ton. If you're going to be placing any of the bets that I've mentioned, or if you have any other picks for Game Week 16, do let me know in the comments below, and I'll be sure to respond to each and every one of them. Please like and subscribe for more, and see you next time.